Where did all the first-time homebuyers go? They've disappeared. I can see it in the sales numbers. I can see it based on the clients that we are helping. And I can tell you, if we don't find a way to get first-time homebuyers back into the market, the system as we know it is going to break. My name's Tom Storey. I run a real estate team here in the city of Toronto, and we've helped a ton of first-time homebuyers over the last 10 years. And the property ladder that we always talk about has worked very, very well in the city of Toronto for about the last 2 decades. So you're either renting or living with family, you get into that first condo. That condo has gone up in value, you've paid down some of the mortgage, maybe you get into a relationship, you use that dual income, you sell that condo, you buy the townhouse. And then in 3 to 5 more years, you sell that townhouse, you buy the semi, and then you get the detached. You can see what I'm talking about here, right? And that system worked well for a long time. That's something that not every market in Canada had. Like Calgary and Edmonton didn't have that type of property ladder market. Toronto and Vancouver did, and it worked very well. However, the last 5 years, specifically for the condo market in Toronto, we've seen no growth. Well, we did see growth and declines. It's happened a few times. If you just draw a line across from like March 2020 till now, prices are pretty much the same. But interest rates have gotten a lot higher. People are being stress tested at a much higher amount. Maybe the maintenance fees have gone up in that condo. The investors are trying to sell right now, flooding the market with condo listings. And if something doesn't adjust, we're going to have a break in the system. And perhaps a break in the system is actually exactly what we need. But let's talk about why this could be an issue. So someone sells their $2 million property. Well, who's buying that property? Is it someone with a $500,000 salary getting pre-approved for their first mortgage buying that house? Maybe, but probably not. It's probably someone that 5 years ago bought a house for $1 million. That house is now worth 1.4 to 1.5. They sell that house to then trade up to that house because over that period of time, the house that they bought has gone up in value. Their mortgage has been paid down. And as they've matured and gotten older, their incomes have probably gone up as well. And that's the system that we've been running on, right? That's been happening. And as you continue to funnel down, well, okay, the $1.5 million house sale buys the $2 million house. And the $2 million house is maybe just selling to downsize out of the market. Who knows what they're doing? But then who's buying the $1.5 million house? Well, probably the person 5 years ago that bought the $750,000 townhouse, and they've experienced growth and they've paid down some of their mortgage and their incomes have gone up and they're jumping up. Well, who's buying that townhouse? Well, it used to be the first time condo seller, sold that condo, bought that townhouse because they've made a bunch of money. You can see where I'm going with this. But the last 5 years, the starting point of the property ladder has been stuck. It hasn't moved. But all these other types of properties have continued to go up. Sagen recently released a report. If you don't know who they are a mortgage default insurer. And what they said is that 40% of people that own their home in Canada have a mortgage. 27% of people own their house with no mortgage. 26% of people surveyed rent. And the final 8% live with no rent, so probably with family. When I started selling real estate, I was 22 years old. That was over 10 years ago. And when you start in this business, typically what happens is you start your career helping people find rentals. Because people my age at that point couldn't afford to buy real estate. I was helping them rent. I stayed in touch, then they'd call me back when they wanted to buy their first property. Now we've gotten to a point in our business where we're helping them sell that second property, get into that family home, then helping their parents downsize. And it's totally changed. For about the first 5 years of my real estate career, first-time homebuyers were the bulk of my business. And we absolutely still help lots of first-time homebuyers get into the market, but percentage-wise, I've noticed it's going down. You can see it in the sales numbers. The more expensive properties are actually the ones selling right now. Like the freehold properties in Toronto still have a ton of demand because of what we talked about, because the people that have owned those lower priced properties for a long period of time, they've experienced that price growth and maybe their income has gone up as well. But the beginning level of how the market works with those condo 1-bedroom units or smaller units, which are having a real tough time right now. And that actually doesn't come back to first-time home buyers, that's investors. But if first-time home buyers, and I guess we'll throw investors into this, even though everyone has their opinion on that, if they don't exist at the bottom end of the market, eventually something's gonna happen here. A comment that I've seen come up a lot in this channel and the podcast that we do every single Sunday is, hey, you're saying that we're in a buyer's market for condos. Why haven't prices gone down yet? And that buyer's market is over 6 months of inventory, which we're very much there right now. And in fact, when the June numbers become official, it could be pushing to 7.5 months. And the answer is Months of inventory is great. I love it. It's like the best metric to understand the market, but it has to stay at that level for several months in a row to actually see price declines or price increases. So if a market 1 month is at 2 months of inventory, the next month is at 4 months, and then it goes back to 2, you're not going to see price declines. Now that we're at 6 months of inventory for condos, if this continues and we get to 7 and then we get to 8 and then it holds at 8 months of inventory for 3 to 6 months period of time, that's when you'll see real pressure on prices. If you're a potential first-time home buyer watching this video, well, what has the system currently right now? What options have they given you to get in the market if your family didn't just give you the down payment? The first home savings account, which I actually think is pretty darn good. I've done another video on it if you'd like to watch it. If you're currently renting real estate right now and you have not purchased, highly recommend go into your bank, your online institution, wherever you bank, and just say, I'd like to open a first home savings account, do your research on it. That is actually helpful, but that alone won't get you into the market. They've upped the RSP room that you can take out. You can take out $60,000 per first-time home buyer. If it's a couple, you can each take out $60,000. It used to be $35,000. On the surface level, that's a great thing to talk about to maybe get a few more votes, but has anybody actually saved that much money? So I'm going to give you 3 potential solutions that could actually help first-time home buyers get into the market. Number 1, the stress test. People are being stressed at 2 basis points higher than the rate that they are given. If you're getting a 5% mortgage, you are being stressed up to a 7% mortgage. That made a lot of sense when rates were at 2%. But right now, especially for first-time home buyers, it's just not allowing people to qualify at all, and they get stuck renting for a long period of time. And I think long-term, that's not necessarily the best place to be. So adjust the stress test just for first-time home buyers. Maybe only do it 1 basis point higher than the rate that they are currently getting. The second solution is the amortization period, okay? Now, hear me out on this, okay? I understand extending amortization just means you pay more interest over the period of that mortgage. And maybe for some people, you shouldn't allow them to extend the amortization because that just creates more debt, and the bubble that is apparently out here just continues to grow. But what's already been announced on August 1st, for first-time home buyers with insured mortgages, meaning putting less than 20% down, they can now get a 30-year amortization on new construction. Okay, now in Toronto, that's not going to do anything, maybe for other markets in Canada. If you switch that to resale properties, meaning everything for sale right now on the MLS system, that would allow people to get in. And right or wrong, the government seems to believe that bringing down monthly payments is helpful for people, but over that period of time, you're paying more interest. And maybe, just maybe, for this program, if we are allowed to get insured mortgages at 30-year amortizations, you made a mandatory program. And I know everybody hates that word, and I understand it. But if you're a first-time home buyer and you're allowed to get this program, what you have to do is go through a 30-minute training. I don't know who would do this. It doesn't need to be a government program by any means. And they show you, hey, this is how a mortgage actually works. It's a 30-year life mortgage right now. The term that you take is likely that first 3 to 5 years in terms of the rate, and it will change after that. However, you can do lump sum payments. You can double up your payments every few months. And if you do the lump sum payments and double up your payments, that 30-year term, you can get down to 20 years, 15 years, depending on how aggressive you want to get with your payments. Only 2% of Canadians take advantage of their prepayment privileges on their mortgage products. It's something I'd highly recommend understanding how it works if you have a mortgage. Number 3, developers. Okay, so developers, if they build buildings in Toronto over 99 units, you have to make a certain amount that's going to be for low-income housing. These are then rented out through city programs and things like that. Okay, I understand that. That cost kind of just goes to everyone else buying in the building. What if developers had to sell, let's say, 20% of the building? And I'm not talking about bringing down the prices. All I'm saying is 20% of the building has to be sold to first-time home buyers that are going to move into this property, okay? So you can't buy it as a first-time home buyer and stay in your rent-controlled apartment. You got to buy it to actually move into it, and you're not competing with investors that are potentially buying these units. And with this new program coming out August 1st, that you can get 30-year amortizations for insured mortgages. Typically in Toronto, you have to put down 20%, so it wouldn't be an insured mortgage. But maybe developers go, okay, 20% has to be sold to first-time home buyers. That's okay. We've got that set over here. And for those properties, we'll allow them to buy with 10 or 15% down instead of the 20%. Maybe you're thinking, well, why the hell would the developers do that? Well, why don't we stop charging the developers so much freaking tax every single project that just gets passed on to the buyers? And instead of upping the development fees 1 year, you just say to them, well, you have to sell 20% to first-time home buyers instead of investors. Hope you enjoyed that video. My name's Tom Storey. If you are looking to get into the market this year, I've got 2 videos for you. One will go through step-by-step everything you need to know to buy a property this year, and the other one will tell you step-by-step everything you need to know if you're looking to sell. My name's Tom Storey, and remember, home is where your story begins.